What is nonviolent communication? And can we maybe please give it another name? I was working with a client the other day, and yeah, we both agreed that I don't really like the nonviolent communication. So I'm going to be shifting it after I introduce this title to positive communication. And that's usually what I call it with my clients and at the schools that I work at. So I am going to be talking in this video all about nonviolent communication. And these are notes that I took from reading A Language of Life by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. And I have actually done workshops about this at schools, and I'm about to be doing one next week, really focusing on our communication and how we can build connection and build a connected community using our communication. And a lot of my philosophy is based on Dr. Marshall Rosenberg's work. I'm just going to kind of read this just because I kind of took good notes. And before I do that, I know there was one piece that I found, part 3. So this is part 2 of this communication little mini series that I'm doing. And first, what we're doing with nonviolent communication is we are giving from the heart. We're giving from the heart. In Dr. Marshall Rosenberg's book, Nonviolent Communication, it is Marshall's belief that it is in our nature to enjoy giving and receiving in a compassionate manner. As a teacher or a parent, it's beneficial to learn the skills to be empowered, to stay connected to our compassionate nature, even under the worst circumstances. We know this, I'm not gonna lie. Parenting is not easy. I'm shifting my thoughts though from this is so hard. And we can learn how to communicate better. We can learn new things. And I hope you learn a lot in this video. The role of language and the use of our words to give from the heart and connect with ourselves and others can truly be an art. So there is a way to focus attention. Nonviolent communication guides us in reframing how we express ourselves and hear others. Instead of habitual, automatic reactions, our words become conscious responses based firmly on awareness of what we are perceiving, feeling, and wanting. Perceiving, feeling, and wanting. We are led to express ourselves with honesty and clarity, while simultaneously paying others a respectful and empathic attention. Through its emphasis on deep listening to ourselves as well as to others, nonviolent communication fosters respect, attentiveness, and empathy, and engenders a mutual desire to give from the heart. And this is why I love this work and the work that I do with positive discipline. I literally have a poster of how do we communicate our love, even in these really hard moments, even in those stressful times, even in conflict, even when someone made a mistake, even when you made a mistake. How do you express that with love from the heart? Let me tell you how. So this is the process. First, we observe what's actually happening in a situation. What are we observing others saying or doing that is either enriching or not enriching our life? The trick is to be able to articulate this observation without introducing any judgment or evaluation. That's the hard work. Any judgment or evaluation. So we are expressing our opinions without judgment and evaluation. And like he does this work within countries and within companies and within this is a communication tool that works. The trick is to be able to, I think I just said this, but I'm just going to reiterate, the trick is to be able to articulate this observation without introducing any judgment or evaluation. Next, we state how we feel when we observe this action. Are we hurt? Are we scared? Are we joyful? Are we amused? Are we irritated? And thirdly, we say what needs of ours are connected to the feelings we have identified. Felix, when I see 2 balls of socks, soiled socks, under the coffee table, and another 3 next to the TV, I feel irritated because I am needing more order in the rooms that we share in common. So that was an example, obviously. When I see 2 balls of socks, you're just observing. So you're stating your observation. When I see 2 balls of soiled socks under the coffee table and 3 next to the TV, I feel irritated because I am needing more order in the rooms that we share in common. And then you follow immediately with the 4th component, a very specific request. So then we request our needs. Would you be willing to put your socks in your room or in the washing machine? The 4th component addresses what we are wanting from the other person. That would enrich our lives or make life more wonderful for us. This sounds, we're setting boundaries, but we're doing it with just our communication. We're saying what we need. So the 4 components of nonviolent communication is first, observations. The concrete actions we observe that affects our well-being. The second are feelings, how we feel in relation to what we observe. The third are needs, the needs, values, desires, etc. that create our feelings. And then the requests, the concrete actions we request in order to enrich our lives. What am I observing, feeling, and needing? What am I requesting to enrich my life? What are you observing and feeling and needing? What are you requesting to enrich your life? Applying this can be applied at all levels of communication and in diverse situations. With a student who, say spits, swears, screams, hits other students, you could say, please say that another way. Would you blank? Or I feel blank. Another good template for expressing our feelings, and I said this in part 1, is I feel blank when you blank, and I wish you would. So we are trying to use communication, or sometimes we do use communication that blocks compassion. We are all affected by this, I'm sure. As Matthew 7:1, I'm not very religious. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. For as you judge others, you will yourselves be judged. So that's Matthew 7:1. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Just not judge, okay? For as you judge others, so you will yourselves be judged. So moralistic judgments. Moralistic judgments imply wrongness or badness on the part of people who don't act in harmony with your values, with our values. When we make moralistic judgments, you idiot, or, if someone cuts you off and you're like, yell. So our attention, when that happens, our attention is focused on classifying, analyzing, and determining levels of wrongness rather than on what we and others need or are not getting. So, it's a good lesson for me, even though I wrote this like 5 years ago, but this is all good. It can sometimes be challenging to maintain a consistent moral message. A study revealed that 75% of the television programs shown during hours when American children are most likely to be watching, the hero either kills people or beats them up. In his book, How to Make Yourself Miserable, Dan Greenberg demonstrates through humor the insidious power that comparative thinking, so making comparisons, comparative thinking can exert over us. He suggests that if readers have a sincere desire to make life miserable for themselves, then they might learn to compare themselves to other people. I love that comparison. I got a whole thing about that. We'll do another video about that. Okay, so sometimes we are denying responsibility. We might be vague, impersonal forces. An example, I cleaned my room because I had to. Our condition diagnosis or personal or psychological history. Quotes, I drink because I'm an alcoholic. It could be, so these are all denials of responsibility. We could blame the actions of others. Like, I hit my child because he ran into the street. Gotta teach him. So I hit him. That's not okay, by the way. That's not positive discipline. You can watch some of the other videos. Possibly the dictates of authority. I lied to my client because my boss told me to. It could be group pressure. I started smoking because all my friends did. It could be institutional policies, rules, and regulations. I have to suspend you for this because this infraction because it's school policy. So you're denying responsibility and it's just a policy. Gender roles, social roles, or age roles. I hate going to work, but I do it because I'm the father. I gotta support everybody. I have to go, but I hate going to work. Or uncontrollable impulses. I was just overcome with this feeling, so I had to eat the candy bar. So those are all denials of responsibility. And what we need to do is with our communication, it could be life alienating communication. So communicating our desires as demands is yet another form of language that does block compassion. A demand explicitly or implicitly threatens listeners with blame or punishment if they fail to comply. So we can never make people do anything. Many of us grew up speaking a language that encourages us to label, compare, demand, and pronounce judgments, rather than be aware of what we are feeling and needing. So this actually could be a whole new concept for you, as it was for me, 15 years ago when I learned positive discipline and I learned, what am I feeling? What do I need? What am I deciding to do because of these feelings? I was really asking myself these questions that I had never asked before. And what you can do is you can learn to observe without evaluating. So it's all about this awareness. But when we can observe, and this is something I work on in Montessori schools a lot. I'm a school consultant, and I work with teachers and Montessori teachers. We are taught how to observe. That's like a record keeping tool. We just observe the child. We observe the child working with the materials that are amazing Montessori materials. We observe them in social interactions. We're observing them, and we are trying not to make judgments. So I really was taught this many years ago, and it's a skill, but you have to practice it. So we need to clearly observe what we are seeing, hearing, or touching that is affecting our sense of well-being without mixing in any evaluation. When we combine observation with evaluation, we decrease the likelihood that others will hear our intended message. Instead, they are apt to hear criticism and thus resist whatever we are saying. The Indian philosopher J. Krishnamurti once remarked that observing without evaluating is the highest form of human intelligence. Ooh, that's cool. Okay. Let's try to be more intelligent, right? Let's observe without evaluating. It's a skill. It's okay. It's going to take time. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to judge. We're going to have the thoughts. We're practicing something new. Observations versus evaluations. And there are some great examples in this book. So I will be diving even deeper in this. As I said, I have 2 big workshops coming up where I'm teaching teachers. And I love talking about this work because it is new for some people. And I think it's a good process. So we're distinguishing feelings from thoughts. We're distinguishing between what we feel and what we think we are. Oh, that's a big one. We are distinguishing between what we feel and what we think we are. Okay, there's different. You can feel anxious, but you're not an anxious person. You're not your anxiety. So that's a big one that I try to work with many of these girls too. You can feel disappointed, you can feel impatient, you can feel frustrated. So distinguish between what we feel and how we think others react or behave toward us. Whew, so those are just a lot of notes that I took from a really great book, and I don't have it in front of me, but Dr. Marshall Rosenberg's book of Nonviolent Communication. It's not necessarily like a great read. I read it because I'm a school consultant, and I work with adults that are working with children and adults that work with each other too. I think that it's a great tool to have in within companies, to know how to communicate and to know how to observe. And so it's great. So know that you can learn some new ways. This is a great way, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And there will be one more video about communication in this series, and I hope this was helpful. This was a big one though, so this was the longest. And again, I just hope that's helpful, and let me know if you have any questions. You can see my website, kristenanker.com, KristenAncker.com, and you can set up a free strategy call if you want to talk more about how you can start implementing this in your life, because I think these tools are where life is, right? A language of life is what Dr. Marshall Rosenberg said. All right, bye for now. See you in the next video.